Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Mom Throws Away My Video Game Collection. After that, You Can't Insure Against Entitlement. Karen Visits My Pharmacy. After that, My Mom's Jerk Boyfriend. After that, I'm going to call head office on you for catching me stealing. And then we'll be wrapping up with The Tale of the Fraudulent Returner. And if you're new, please subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Mom Throws Away My Video Game Collection. It's 1998. I'm 12 years old and I've become a budding video game collector. It's the middle of the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation era, and while most of my friends have sold their older consoles to help fund purchases of current generation games, I still have an NES, SNES, and Sega Master, in addition to a Nintendo 64. The Super Nintendo stays in my sister's room at this time, although she doesn't play it much, and I still come into her room to play on it some days. I also cycle between connecting my Sega, NES, and N64 to my TV, depending on my gaming whims. My friends who come over are also enthusiastic at still being able to play the games they once owned in previous years. My mother is less than thrilled with the collection of consoles filling up my drawers. I come home one day from school to find my room has been cleaned up and made more orderly. I open one of my drawers and am shocked to find it empty when it once contained my NES and its games. Me. Mom, where's my original Nintendo? Mom, casually. I threw it in the garbage. What? Why would you do that? She looks at me incredulously. You don't need old garbage when you have a new video game system. I like having it, and I still play it sometimes. The expression of incredulity grows, and she starts sounding angrier. Mom. What use would you possibly have for an old Nintendo when you already have a new one? It's fun to go back and play old games again, and sometimes I get bored with Mom waves me off dismissively. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I rush out to the side yard and open the trash can to find my NES, controllers, zapper, and games all sitting on top and uncontaminated by any trash or fetid liquids. So I recover it all and carry it back inside. My mom watches me and shakes her head and sighs, unable to fathom my actions. I talk with her later. Mom, please don't throw anything out of my room without checking with me first. It's my house, and I'm not going to let you fill it with garbage. Sure enough, days later I came home and found that my Sega Master was now missing. It shared a drawer with my Nintendo 64, and one Sega controller is all that's left of my system. My mother must have overlooked it. I also realized the power adapter for the N64 is missing. I run back out to the side yard and open the trash can. Empty. She picked the day the garbage truck came to make sure I couldn't get it back. Me, trying to contain my rage. Mom, did you throw away my Sega Master? Yes, I did. There is no reason for you to keep around useless junk when you're playing a new system. I do still play them, and I like collecting. No, you don't collect old video games. You play them when they're new, and then you get rid of them to make room for the next ones. That's how it works. No one plays old video games. They are worthless. And all your friends are going to think you're so stupid for keeping old video games. Go to your room. I don't want to hear from you until dinner. I sit up in my room by myself most of the night. I struggle through my homework, distracted from feeling angry and upset. A few days later, I tell my mom that she also threw out the power pack for my Nintendo 64, so I can't play that anymore. She harshly tells me it's all my fault for keeping old games with the new games. I get my dad to replace it for me, since my mom has no intentions of doing so. My dad also talks her into respecting my personal space and possessions, so she does not make another attempt at discarding my NES. but she remains hostile and utterly baffled by the concept of retro gaming. She sees my sister and me playing Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo in her room, or a friend and me playing Battletoads on my NES in my room, and says, "How can you play those old games when you have new advanced games?" She tried several more times to convince me to part from my ever-growing collection of games and consoles as I grew into an adult, but at least she did not overrule my decisions to keep them. She wanted me to leave them stored at her house when I moved out after graduating high school, but I was adamant about keeping my collection whole and set up together in my entertainment center. I'm now 33 years old and have about 250 games across 22 different consoles spanning 5 different decades of gaming. My mother has accepted that retro gaming is quite popular and that old games can be very valuable. She regrets being so harsh on me and, as an avid collector of antiques herself, deeply regrets throwing away a complete and perfectly working classic system, as she now can emphasize with what I went through and realizes what a sought-after collectible it was. She enjoys finding good deals on rare heirlooms and, now that she associates classic game collecting with antiques, has become quite enthusiastic at helping me add to my collection. By the Christmas of 2018, I lived, and still do, on the opposite side of the country from my family. I could not return for Christmas that year, so my parents sent Christmas presents to me in the mail so I could open them on Skype with the family. One of them was a Sega Master. My mom worked hard to track one down that was in optimal condition and sent it to me as a way to apologize for her actions 20 years ago. Next we've got, "You Can't Insure Against Entitlement. Karen Visits My Pharmacy." A young woman pulls up to our drive-through pharmacy to pick up Ritalin for her son, who was sitting in the back seat. The medication wasn't ready, so I check the system and see that the insurance isn't covering it. A reason is usually provided, but not in this case. Entitled Mom: "That makes no sense. We always get it filled here, and there's never a problem. The insurance covers everything." Classic line with pharmacy customers who think insurance is magic and has no limitations. Me: "I understand, but I just tried to run it through the insurance and they rejected it without giving a reason why. Would you be able to call them?" Entitled Mom: "Okay, I'll call right now." Looks at her insurance cards angrily. "So, what's the number?" Me, confused why she thinks I know the number off the top of my head. "There should be a customer service number on the back of the card." Entitled Mom, still angry. "Member services?" Yes. She calls and remains sitting in the single-lane driveway, blocking a line of cars with no regard for the other people who came for their medications. Me: "Could you pull around the store to make the call?" "I'm not leaving this spot until I get my son's meds." The pharmacist comes over. Pharmacist in a friendly tone: "I'm sorry, but would you be able to—" Entitled Mom, without even looking at us: "I'm not leaving." Rolls the window up in our faces. The pharmacist curses under their breath and leaves to help other customers. The mom reaches someone from the insurance company and puts the window back down. For 15 minutes, I listen to her scream at the representative. The whole store can hear her through the drive-thru, dropping profuse language and bullying the rep. Her son is fidgeting in the back seat, but sadly, he doesn't look surprised by this behavior. Entitled Mom: "Why isn't my son's medication covered? You are supposed to cover it, and he needs this. What is your name?" "Okay, and what is your last name?" "L, is that your last name? Wow, that's a weird last name. Then give me your employee number." "What do you mean you don't have numbers? So how does your company have you on file? Give me your information." "You know what? Never mind. I want to speak to a manager. Now!" A car behind her honks. Other customer shouting forward: "What's going on? It's been almost half an hour. Just go inside." Entitled Mom shouting back: "Shut up!" Eventually, the cars behind her begin leaving the line. None of them come inside the store. Mom, still on the phone, throws a discount prescription card and her welfare card at me and looks expectant. I return a blank look. Entitled mom in a pleasant voice. I'm waiting for you. Me, confused as to what she expects me to do since the insurance issue has not been resolved. Did they put the claim through? If so, I can try to rerun it. Entitled mom arrogantly says, Just run the cards and give me the medication. I'm going to pay the same amount as I did last time. Use the cards I just gave you and give me his pills. It still has to go through the insurance first. The mom continues screaming simultaneously at the phone and now at me. The pharmacist comes over again and takes charge of the situation. Pharmacist. You need to stop talking like that to our staff. You're cursing and insulting us. We don't need that. In the future, I think you need to use a different pharmacy. Entitled mom in a weirdly amused way. Who are you even? I didn't ask you anything. The pharmacist and I are fed up. I look back and see that the store manager has been listening to everything in the background. The pharmacist tries to run the medication through the insurance again, but the rejection is still coming up. Pharmacist. The insurance is still not going through. We've done what we can. The cash price is $130 and we can fill it for you. The mom sped away in a flash without another word. We were surprised she didn't curse us out one more time. We anticipate that she has already called corporate to tell them we are horrible people for preventing her from getting her son's medication. The store manager who overheard said she will vouch for us. If that entitled mom knew how to be patient and work with people, there's a chance she could have gotten her son's medication filled. I feel really bad for that kid. Next we've got my mom's jerk boyfriend. When I was around 8 years old, my mom kicked my dad out of our house, which he took surprisingly well. Around that time, she started seeing a guy who we will call Family Breaker, or FB for short. Anyway, she tried to keep him a secret from me and my older brother, but that obviously failed. Any parents with an 8-year-old know how hard it is to keep a secret from them. So one night, mom decides to bring him over for dinner, and let's just say he did not make a good impression at all. His first words me and my brother heard him say were, "Hey babe," which made my brother get more mad than I'd seen him before or after. He packed his bags and moved in with my dad, like within 2 days of that first impression of Family Breaker. I was just happy mom had found someone after dad. Dad is not a bad man. We were just stunned. And I convinced my, at the time, 10-year-old brain that everything was okay. But then he started staying over and eventually moved into my house. When that happened, his true colors started to show. He was a raging alcoholic who made me make him drink sometimes. It was around this time I started to get into boxing, but also realized what was going on at home. So when I went to Dad's house, we would sit on his couch and talk about all the stuff going on at Mom's house, and it usually drove me to tears. And I'm a boy, so I feel like I could have handled it better. But Family Breaker would throw these parties on school nights, and with me being in the 5th grade, my bedtime was 8:30 p.m., and I never met that deadline. It really messed with my head. There were strangers there sometimes who would pass out on my bed, and I had to sleep on the couch or the floor. When I told Dad about this, it really made him mad, but he said there was nothing he could do, and it was my mom's own stupidity. I remember one night he was so far gone, and Mom had said the wrong thing, and he threw his drink in her face. When I told my brother about this, he came home and punched Friend Breaker square in the jaw. That was a great day. But that was only 5th grade when I was 10. The next memory I have is the day before I started 6th grade. I was freaking out because I had not started a new school in 6 years. He told me to just shut up and go to bed when my mom was trying to comfort me. That was horrible. But my mom started to understand what kind of a person he was and paid more attention to me than she did him. I vividly remember one night, Mom was watching me play Batman Arkham Knights on the PS4 her and my dad had just bought me as a late birthday present, and he stood in the doorway. He just stood there, did not say anything, just stared at me as I just had a grin on my face. Then, a few weeks later, he did something I never thought he had the guts to do. He asked to meet my father, which gave Dad and I the best laugh we ever had. Then, when I told him Dad had declined the offer to meet the devil in the flesh, he said, "Whatever, I didn't want to meet him anyway." If I'm remembering right, a few weeks later we had our finals in school, and he pulled me away from my mom to tell me, "I hope you fail, you annoying jerk." Which again put me into tears, because I was a fragile 11-year-old. I ended up passing with all A's and B's just to prove to him that I'm not as stupid as he thought. Then, that summer, my mom wanted to bring all of her side of the family down to our house for a week. The thought of my very close-knit family meeting him scared me to death. My brother came home for the occasion, and I still can't think of a man who hates Family Breaker more than him. Everything was great, except for him, and he made my family feel very uncomfortable, which I felt bad about. But Family Breaker and my uncle and all the boys did build a little building in our backyard, but nobody there except Mom even came close to liking him. But all in all, it was a successful visit. When they all left, he was being an absolute jerk about how the family treated him, even though he was rude to them. I started 7th grade a few weeks later, and this was it. This was the year they broke up. I had thought they had broken up already when I started school again, but I was wrong. One day, I was on the phone with my dad to tell him goodnight, and for the first time, he yelled at me and yelled my name. I remember telling my dad, "Hey, I gotta go," to which Dad replied, "I heard it. Put me on speaker." I hung up and yelled at him, "Get the heck out of my dang house." A few weeks later, I was doing some homework on the computer, and I heard him call my mom his girlfriend. That's when I flew over the edge. I walked up to him without saying a word and beat him up. Then I told him to pack his things and leave. He did in a heartbeat. I then convinced my mom to break up with him. He then began calling my mom on an almost daily basis and making her cry. That time, I really wanted to get him, but I didn't know where he was, so I could not even tell him to leave us alone in person. Then last year, he came to our doorstep the morning we were going to Florida for vacation. At that point, I was 12 and finally comprehended what I had been through the past 3 years, and I once again broke down in tears. But this time, I started shaking too. I don't know if it was fear or what, but that's the last time I saw him. But a few days ago, my mom got a call from him, and that shook me to my core. Also, in a recent discussion with my aunt, I learned that he had hurt her, and once again, I wanted to get that man. But this time, I had something stopping me besides the fear of jail. I was scared of hurting my parent, my older brother who I care so much for, and the fact that Family Breaker moved to Florida after being threatened by my dad, my brother, and I. My family is happy again, and nothing bad has really happened like this since. Thank you if you read through this whole thing. It means the world to me. Next we've got, "I'm going to call the head office on you for catching me stealing." This just happened tonight. I'm still laughing about it, so I thought Reddit might want to laugh about it too. Our cast, we've got me and the tag-swapping idiot. I work in a store that has a horrible problem for stealing, as it is a thrift store on a rather bad end of town. Anyways, I'm currently taking a course to become a security guard, so being able to stop shoplifting is really fulfilling for me. So, of course, I see this guy with a huge hood, couldn't even see his face, and a backpack. Usually, a backpack in this store is enough to keep an eye out. I'm working fitting rooms, and we have a company-wide policy that you need to count the customer's items before they go in, and you can only take 6 items in. Anyways, this guy tells me he has 6. I tell him I need to physically count them. People put shirts inside shirts all the time, so feeling the clothing is important. He is already irritated at this, but complies. Joke's on me, he has 8, so that's yet another red flag. A long time passes, way too much for 6 items, and he basically throws about half the items at me and rushes to the register. As I start putting the clothing on the rack, I see a low-end brand item tagged with a high price, a usual sign it has been tag swapped. Happens super often. People putting a $2 tag on something Nike, for example, so they don't have to pay $10. Also, our tags are designed so they can't be ripped off without destroying the tag, so you can tell it has been swapped pretty easily. Of course, all the items he gave me have ripped up tags that are not the price they should be. I get excited, show my manager, and she knows it makes me happy to call people out for this, so she lets me handle it. Poor girl at the register is brand new and has already finished scanning his items, so I ask her to stop for a second and plop the entire pile of clothes he threw at me in front of him. Me. None of these tags are correct, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to re-tag them so they are the correct price. Customer. How do you know? Me. I'm actually not supposed to tell you how I can tell, but our company reserves the right to correct tags that are not correct at any time. Well, that's something your company should work on, because I didn't do anything with the tags. Me. Oh, should we? Hey, manager, it seems we need to work on tagging items correctly. Either way, I need to re-tag all of these items. Infuriatingly, we are not allowed to accuse anyone of anything, so I can only re-tag the items and hopefully he will learn his lesson. Customer. Well then, I only want these jeans. How much will they be? He is being super rude at this point. I look at all the tags I grabbed off the other clothes he swapped with. Only one says jeans, roughly $16. Me. Seems this was the original tag, as I can see this hoodie shouldn't have a jeans tag. Fine, but just so you know, I'll be calling head office. I proudly display my name tag to him so he can see my name and inform the manager, to which she accidentally laughs out loud as she knows everything that's happening. It was an honest accident. Don't hate on my manager, she's awesome. He left with just one item and left me with at least 8 items, all with wrong tags, only to anticipate an amazing call/meeting with head office about stopping a shoplifter. I know he won't call, but part of me really wants him to. I did everything right, didn't accuse him, just reserved my right as an employee and stopped the shoplifter. Try me, buddy. Next we've got The Tale of the Fraudulent Returner. A bit of context. I work at a craft store. Corporate cut our loss prevention position. We use customer service to deter shoplifters. When doing a return without a receipt, you get the lowest sale price and we need a form of ID. Our cast. We've got manager, we've got the fraudulent returner, we've got coworker, and me. Our story begins about a month ago, give or take a week. I get called up to the registers by my coworker. As we get the line down, a girl, fraudulent returner, comes to my register. This customer has about 6 products she is returning without a receipt. I'm going through the transaction normally, no red flags yet. About the same time, my coworker needs some change and calls up manager. As manager was getting the change, they noticed a certain product in the return. She strikes up a conversation with the customer. Manager. So, you didn't need all of this? Customer. No, I was working on a project last month, and this is what was left over. Manager. Oh, always buy more so you can return what you don't need. Picks up a certain product. Interesting. We just stocked this 2 days ago. You said you got all of this here? Customer. No, I got this at a different location, like 2 weeks ago. Manager. Interesting. This product just got shipped to the stores. No store was supposed to put them in until a specific date. Which store? I don't remember which store. Manager says okay. I finish processing the return and send her on her merry way. Customer leaves, and manager tells both coworker and I to keep an eye out for her. This is where most stories end, and you wouldn't figure out the return is a stolen product. This story doesn't end here. It continues today. Same exact cast. Fraudulent returner really didn't think. So today I'm covering coworker's break. Fraudulent returner is back and has another return. I of course recognize her. I say the normal spiel and then walk a manager and tell manager I need a manager's approval for a return. Luckily, manager is a couple of aisles away and gets to the register almost immediately. Manager just takes over on a different register. Manager: Hi, I hear you're returning all of this? Customer: Yeah, my grandma doesn't need any of it. Do you have a receipt? No, my grandma couldn't find it. Did she buy it all in this store? Yes, that's what she told me. All on the same transaction? Yep, that's what grandma said. Manager: Okay, do you want to give me a moment to see if I can find the receipt? You would get the exact amount you paid for it instead of the lowest sale price. Sure, that would be awesome. Did your grandma happen to say when she bought all of this? Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Okay, I'll be right back. Exit stage, left manager. Customer: I'll stand to the side so you can help the others. Customer is grinning ear to ear like she just won the lottery. I take the next customer and the line starts building. I was going to call for backup, however, my coworker pages over the walkie she's back from break. Sweet. Coworker gets back and takes the next customer. While both of us are finishing up with our customers, manager comes back. Manager: I couldn't find any receipt. Are you sure it was at this store? It could have been the store closer to her house. Okay then. It'll have to be the lowest sales price. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Manager processes the return, tells coworker to finish it up, and hands coworker a return card. Coworker tries to process the return card, and one small problem: it's already been issued. Coworker calls manager back. We ran out of return cards. Manager voids the transaction and apologizes to the customer. Customer exits the scene. Manager sends a mass text to every location in our district and one to the district manager to inform the other locations not in our district. Coworker asked if that was the fraudulent returner we were all on the lookout for because she looked just like her. We all agree we won't be seeing her anytime soon. And shoutouts to our re-generals of the day: Ghost, KC Cat 5, and the Mega Army Plays. Become tomorrow's re-generals by leaving as many re's as you can in the comments below.